Welcome to Look Who's Cooking. I'm Betty Banjack, and we hope to be coming to you each week with a new guest. Our guest today is Dr. Dennis McKnight. He's the principal here at the Norristown Area High School, and this show is being filmed at the high school in the TV studio under the direction of Tony Coya. We're very excited to be able to come to Norristown, sort of like coming home for me. I've lived in Norristown, I think, much longer than I lived anywhere else. Dr. McKnight is from Phoenixville, and that's where I grew up, so it was really like old home week when we sort of discovered. And you know my cousin Tom Mitchell,
yes, I
and
do.
yeah, things like that. And so we're going to jump right into the cooking, and we're going to talk with you as we go along. And I want you to do me a favor. This is a new venture. We're cooking right in the television studio without a kitchen. We're bringing in things each week as we need them, and hope that we can present to you a really interesting show. All of the guests will be your neighbors and your friends, and they'll be the chefs and the culinary experts in your life. This is not the commercial chef or the commercial thing. So I think we should all have a good time doing this. So just bear with us if anything happens. As I said, we're here in the high school studio. We're not in a regular kitchen. When I did my show for 3 years out of Pottstown, I was in my own kitchen. And that was wonderful because, you know, you can turn around and get a spoon or turn around and get a cup. And here we do bring everything in. So without further ado, I'm going to let Dr. McKnight tell us what he's making and let him start. And I'll just ask questions.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you, Betty, to Norristown Area High School and to Eagle News Studio. We're very happy to have you here, and we're happy to be involved with you in this venture. And we look forward to much good eating. Okay, what we're going to make today is a dish called jambalaya. Now, there are many versions of jambalaya, but the version that I'm going to prepare today is a version that I learned from a recipe in a Southern Living cookbook. In fact, I looked at it again last night just to make sure, from 1983, and I've been making it over the years and made adjustments. Now, with any Cajun, as this dish is called, meal, the first thing you do is you make a roux. And a roux is very simply bacon drippings, in this case 3 tablespoons of bacon drippings, and 3 tablespoons of flour.
Smells wonderful.
You take the bacon drippings, and as you can see, as we stir, the goal of a roux is that it should become the color of a copper penny. And the way that happens is as the flour and the bacon grease congeal and cook, they're scraped off the bottom of the pan, and then it gets not only the color, but also the flavor that we're looking for as the base for this dish.
How long have you cooked this? You started this earlier, didn't you?
This takes about 15 minutes. You have to really keep at it. If you leave it sit too long and ignore it, everything will congeal in the bottom of the pan. So you have to constantly stir it. Now,
well, you can't burn it.
You do not want to burn it. Now, as this finishes up, I'm going to start with the next segment, and we'll leave that. And I'll ask you to perhaps every now and then just stir that, Betty.
Oh, it's nice to be useful.
Now, what we're going to do in the roux is we're going to take a number of vegetables, and basically, as you can see, we have celery. Okay, I'm going to take this.
You want to get the cuttings?
There we go. And I'm going to chop up some celery. Also have some onion. For this dish, I'm going to use 2 medium onions, and I'm going to chop them finely. Another thing that we're going to put in here is garlic. Okay, now you'll notice I have this fresh garlic, and I have a garlic press. It's a little trick that I've learned. You just simply put the garlic in there, squeeze it like that, and there we have our garlic. And the last ingredient is fresh parsley. For the fresh parsley, all we want to do is chop off the ends.
I love parsley.
Parsley just has a very unique taste and adds much to it. So now, in order to hasten the preparation of this meal, what I have done is I have pre-prepared these ingredients. And what I'm going to do now is to the roux, I'm going to add the celery. There's about 4 stalks of celery that I put in there.
You do want me to keep mixing?
Just keep mixing that. I'm going to also put chopped onions.
They're pretty coarsely chopped. Is that a good way to do it?
Yes. You want them to be as coarsely chopped as you can because remember, we're going to be adding some other ingredients with this specifically some meat ingredients, and we want them to be relatively similar in size. And the last part was the chopped parsley and the garlic. So now what we're going to do, and I'll take back over, thank you for your help. What we're going to do with this now is we're just going to continue to cook this mixture until the onion and the celery have cooked down and are a little softer than they normally would if they would not have been cooked in this way. So what we're going to do now is, so that we can see this, we're going to ask you to continue doing that, because as we're doing this, as this mixture is cooking, we'll cook this for about a period of about 10 minutes.
It smells wonderful. It's just...
This is the base for the soup. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on our meats. So now I think that's probably pretty good right now.
Yeah,
so I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to allow that to stir. I'll occasionally stir it to make sure it goes. Then I'm going to take my meats. Now, for this particular jambalaya, I've selected ham, andouille sausage, which is a very spicy Cajun sausage, and shrimp. Okay, for the purposes of our demonstration here, what I'm going to do now is take this. We'll turn this up a little bit. I believe we have that on there. Then I'm going to put the ham and the sausage. Just so you know, with this sausage, if you look over here, sausage link comes like that. You want to cut it in half, and then again, so to be bite-sized. All right, now as you can see, we're cooking this in our skillet.
I have to ask you a question. You said jambalaya.
Yes.
And then you said gumbo.
No, I haven't said gumbo. Gumbo is another type of Cajun food that would start with the roux, but different ingredients. Again,
I got mixed up what you were...
In this skillet now, all we're attempting to do, I have a piece of bacon in there to get this going, get the flavor of it. And we're going to let this cook to get the flavor of the sausage. And again, it's a very spicy sausage. To get the flavor of the sausage and the ham. You can also use chicken. You can use pork.
The sausage.
You can smell sometimes when I cook this at home, my wife has to open the windows because the smell not only... Now, as this is cooking, and we'll turn this down a little bit, all we want to do is heat this. And I'd like to go back over. Remember, I'm still cooking the vegetables. I'm cooking these vegetables until they become soft.
I think the word's translucent.
Exactly.
When the onions get translucent.
You pick up a piece of celery, and this is the way I test it, and see. Still has a little bit to go, but it's moving along very nicely. So on the left-hand side, I've got my skillet with my meats cooking. On the right-hand side, and I've just turned the heat up on this a little bit, I've got the vegetables cooking over here. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to take 2 cups of rice and 5 cups of water. Okay, as soon as the vegetables are ready, as soon as the meats are ready, we'll put the entire mixture together. And again, that smell is getting very good. It's really...
You know, this would be great. This is the time of the year when people start thinking of Mardi Gras.
Exactly.
And you could have your own little Mardi Gras party.
This is certainly a dish that you would have at a Mardi Gras party.
I want to tell you, all the recipes on the show can be gotten by, there's a graphic at the end of the show that gives you an address, Post Office Box 1660 in Norristown. You can write for the recipe. This show's number is 001. It's the first show. And we're going to send you this recipe, and we'll also send you, I'm making a bread that goes along with this, so we'll be able to send you both of the recipes. But the important thing is, when you request it, that you send a stamped, self-addressed envelope. That's the only way we can get that out to you. But we'll talk more about that later.
Now, I had mentioned earlier the idea of the shrimp. Okay, these shrimp will be in. I do not put the shrimp in the mixture with the skillet, nor do I put the shrimp in the mixture initially, because I have found that if you cook the shrimp too long, they tend to get tough and you lose the flavor of the shrimp. What we would like is the flavor of the ham and the sausage to mix with the flavor that we've created with the onions, the garlic.
The garlic isn't
celery.
too strong, though. That's good.
getting very nice over there. It's looking very good now. I'm just about ready.
You want me to stir this for you?
Yeah, if you would just make sure that doesn't get stuck too far to the bottom. This looks very nice. I think we're just about there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 cups of water. I'm going to mix this in here. And again, now that the water's there, mix the vegetables one more time.
I'll mix the meat.
I'm going to take the 2 cups of rice, and I'm going to add it to the vegetable mixture. I'm going to take the meat, minus the shrimp, add that to the vegetable mixture. And now for probably one of the most important parts, I'm going to move this over here so we can see from the top. We haven't talked a lot about spices except for the sausage. The spices that I elect to use: salt, pepper, and a little red pepper. This is black pepper. It's a ½ teaspoon of black pepper or more, okay? Now,
You really came prepared, huh?
this is the black pepper. Now, how do I know that this is ½ teaspoonful? I'm positive it is.
Oh, I know.
You know.
You know that right away.
Okay, same thing with the salt.
You know, people
Little
use
more
salt
salt.
shakers, and they're really not good because when you see it in your hand, you know how much you put in.
Exactly.
If you salt it like this, you can get over-salted.
You can see the mixture now.
Mm-hmm.
Now the rice is in there, but the rice is very, I'm going to turn this up a little bit because we're going to want to continue to cook this. We still have a flame there.
Yes.
Now this is probably the most important ingredient. This is the red pepper. You have to be very careful that you know who is going to be eating this, because if you put too much red pepper in, you will limit the number of people who can eat it. So you have to be very careful. I prefer things very spicy. My wife prefers things hardly spicy. So I usually go halfway between.
Halfway between. Now.
All right.
I can't take hot foods.
All right.
And,
All right, so this is where we are now. Everything is here except the shrimp. As you can see, what we're going to do now is I'm going to move it over here onto this. I'm going to put the lid on it. I'm going to bring it to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, I'm going to cut it back, and we're going to cook it for about 15 more minutes so that, in fact, the rice will be cooked, because that's the thing we want to do. We want the rice to cook. We want the rice to share the flavor of everything else that we put in our dish.
You put water in there, but could you use like stock, chicken stock?
You could
beef
use.
stock?
I have used in some recipes chicken stock, which again gives it a different flavor. In fact, I think the chicken stock might even give it a little better flavor.
Yeah.
I've used that. And again, as I said, the recipe that I used for this particular dish is one I got from Southern Living, but there are a number of recipes for jambalaya. And as you know, some recipes for jambalaya use tomato.
Yes,
in
they
them.
do.
And,
In fact, I have a column this month coming out in the Phoenix paper, and it has a jambalaya recipe in it.
Oh.
You'll have to check it
Excellent.
out.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over here and I'm going to put it on my side burner, where, as you can see, the flame is much higher. I'm going to put my lid on the pot, because now what we want to do is we want to bring this to a boil. And then about 5 minutes before we're done cooking it, I'm going to take the shrimp and put the shrimp in it, just so that the shrimp will be heated through rather than being cooked. So
That sounds great.
it's where we are. Now
That's
all we
where
have
we
to
are?
do is we're going to sit and wait 15 minutes, and
Well, why don't I make a bread that we can have with that?
fantastic. It's excellent. In fact, this dish and a bread
It's a meal.
constitutes a meal,
Right.
and it makes it very nice. So
Okay, bear with us. We'll be right there. We had to get everything ready. Talking more about that party idea, that's a great idea, to have a party and invite your friends.
now you're sure you won't be able to use this on-delay sausage in your bread?
Nah, don't think so. Let me get all this stuff here, and then we'll be able to go right from there. This is really an unusual bread. It's a cottage cheese bread. And what we do is we put in a quarter of a, I do a wet mixture and a dry mixture that'll be put together. And this bread is a battered bread. And the battered bread means no yeast, either baking soda or baking powder. And you don't have to let it proof for hours at a time. And it's just a lot easier. Let's see, we're going to start with a quarter of a cup of milk. Put it in here. And then we have, not a quarter cup of milk. I was wrong. It was 2/3. So I'm going to put a little more.
Excuse me.
Let's see, we have something floating around in here that might be from the jambalaya.
Uh-oh. We might have a new recipe.
We might have a new recipe. Then there's a quarter of a cup of oil. I put this in here. And we put in a quarter of a cup of honey. I'm going to do just like Dr. McKnight did. I'm going to tell you how much a quarter of a cup is. Honey is that's 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons. It's just hard to get honey in and out of the container.
Excellent. That definitely looks like a quarter cup.
Oh, yeah. And we mix this together, and I did the no-no. I usually use the covered whisk, and I use the non-covered whisk, which I usually use for flour, but it'll be okay.
Now, I have never tackled bread in my own cooking experiences, but watching
You should start with the batter bread.
This looks like something that would be much easier than I remember my mother making bread.
Oh, for hours and days.
Pans and
yeah, then this is 6 ounces of cottage cheese. And then we have 1 egg. We mix this all together really well. In here, I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1.5 cups of wheat flour. And together, if you did all wheat, it would fall apart, but it has a better taste. Then with that, I 2 teaspoons of baking powder, that's important powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and then just like a scant, not a full teaspoon of salt, and then I have everything in here. I brought everything together in here, and I'm going to mix this together. You know how people say sift? You got to sift and all.
Right.
Well, if you use these and you whisk enough and you use a big enough bowl, you really don't have to sift. It just puts some air in it.
Sure.
And most breads don't need that. Some cakes should do that. Okay, so we put that over there, and here we have. Now we have our. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. Whoops! I didn't put in the important stuff.
Aha.
That was this baking soda, baking powder, and salt. You know, and when you work out of your own kitchen,
I know, it's so much easier without
you seem to forget things for some reason. So we have that there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly add the flour mixture into the wet mixture here. And I'm going to go, what happened to my, I don't like to use a whisk when I'm stirring something into something, because all the ingredients get stuck in the
whisk, right?
Yeah.
Take half your
so
batter.
I always use a wooden spoon, the good old wooden spoon. I don't know who invented it, but.
Well, my mother found some very unique uses for the wooden spoon when I was growing up.
Oh yeah. Did they incur the back end of your anatomy?
Yes, they certainly did. Came from a family of 13 children, and we knew the wooden spoon well, both from the kitchen and other places in the house.
You don't over mix this. I'm going to put a little more milk in this because I didn't do it right in the beginning. I don't think I got enough in.
Okay.
You don't over mix it, but you make sure everything's wet.
Right.
Ooh.
Oh, I think we'll cut that back a little bit. We don't want to cook it too fast.
And what I would do is spray. I'm the queen of the foil pan purse people. And I take and I just lightly spray it. I never flour the breads. Sometimes you need the cakes, but not the breads. Again, this is still a little stiff. Let me see how it's getting really
I
dooky.
think this is one of the things that I like about cooking. Every time you make something, it's a new experience. You
And
can
it's
be
not an
creative.
exact art.
That's exactly right. A lot of people think that it's science, that you, but I have found that cooking is always more of an art.
So what I'm going to do is just get this in the pan. Oh, thank you. I'm reaching a little further than I normally would reach. Get rid of this ball. And then you just sort of, it's amazing how when it melts and when it's in the heat, it all fills in all the cracks
Oh,
and
yes.
crevices.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So when we have that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put it in an oven for about 45, 50 minutes,
Okay.
and at 375, which is a little higher than others. And then we're going to come up and let me show you what the finished product looks like.
Oh,
Here's
very
our
nice.
cottage cheese bread. So this will be really tasty with the jambalaya. How's it coming?
I think you can start to smell it. Unfortunately, our viewers won't be able to
I
smell
know.
it till they cook it
Smell-o-vision.
themselves. But it's coming along very nicely. I probably want to cut it back a little bit so it doesn't cook too quickly.
Smell-o-vision is the next step, I
That's
think.
the next step, so we'll be able to maybe at least have people be able to phone in and
Well, I had someone call me the other day after one of my shows out of Pottstown and said they swore they smelled the latkes. And I said, I don't think so. And they were very sure they smelled the latkes. I want to get.
let me bring my
Oh, we have it, huh?
let me bring a completed dish.
Oh yeah, I have forks. I even have bowls if you want them, but we can taste it out of the.
We could taste it right out of the pot.
Yeah. Now you made this yesterday.
I
you
made
said?
this. I made this dish yesterday, and of course put a few sprigs of parsley on top of it.
Mm.
Now, if you get the sausage, you'll get a real taste.
I don't think I did. You didn't put the shrimp. Oh, you're not
The
done
shrimp
that
is
part.
in this one.
Yeah, I feel. Oh yeah, I feel.
The sausage is very good.
Well, the bread can cool down. Want to try some? The crew agreed to do this show only so they could eat afterwards. They told me that. Tony Coya told me that, so I guess we'll have to let them eat.
Very good. That's a very nice combination.
It is. Well, it's hearty.
It's a great meal, I think, for a wintry afternoon. It really is.
A Mardi Gras party.
There you go.
Everyone needs a Mardi Gras party.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I want to remind you that you can get the recipes by writing to the Post Office Box 1660, Norristown 19404, to Look Who's Cooking. And we have, we're looking for cooks in the area that would like to come to be on the show. So if you'll just contact me there at that address, we'll talk about it and we'll see what you want to do. And it's hard to eat and talk at the same time. I love sourdough. And we look forward to seeing you in the coming weeks. We have a lot of guests lined up and a lot of really interesting things.
Good.
And I'm going to thank you very
Well,
much
thank
for,
you,
being,
Betty.
for being brave enough to be our first guest on Look Who's Cooking.
Well, I love to cook and I love to eat, so
Good.
and we love to have you here, and we hope you have a great success here at Eagle News Studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.